Hello, all. Mike Thomas here. Welcome to Regulated Habits Meetup. This is recording only this week. And today is week 8, themed body weight exercises, finding your strength within yourself. So, the theme for this week and today is learning how to move your body in a way that builds strength using your body weight rather than adding external uh, resistance through weights or bands or cable stacks, that type of thing. Instead, just using your body weight to build strength and doing it in a way that supports nervous system regulation. So, traditionally, in strength training programs, particularly in body weight strength training programs, the goal is to be able to move more of your body with ease, with less challenge, so that you can progress and make more and more difficult movements happen. So, if you want to perform them, if that's what it's about, being able to do, like a full side or front split would be flexibility, an end goal or performance, you might say, that feels good. To switch from uh, regular squats with 2 legs to a single leg squat, and perhaps even going all the way down with your butt down to your heel. That would be like a pistol squat. Or shifting from, doing push-ups with both hands, let's say on an elevated surface, which is much easier than like, up on the edge of a couch or a tabletop, versus putting your hands down on the floor and doing push-ups, or versus your knees going to your toes, where it's more difficult on your toes. Even to single arm push-ups or planche. The planche is where you put your hands on the ground and your legs are straight out in the air, and you're able to support yourself completely on your arms, balancing your body in the air. That's quite a body weight strength feat. And you can work toward that uh, for the sake of being able to do something cool. But what is the practical value in building your strength to body weight ratio? Well, it's because your everyday movements of sitting down into a chair, getting back up, walking around, carrying groceries, maybe helping somebody up the stairs. Maybe you have an elderly family member, or somebody's injured and you need to help them move around on crutches or a wheelchair. You need increased strength in order to do that without overly stressing your system. You're able to give more effortlessly. You're able to go through your day and actually have your nervous system stay within its window of tolerance. So if you're all the way down here in terms of stress levels that you're inducing, let's say, sitting or getting up and just gently walking, well, you're not going to tax your system to the point where you're overwhelmed, where you're feeling, let's say, anxiety, right? And if you're able to keep that same low level of stress at the lower end of your capacity, in that window of tolerance, let's say you're able to do squats and your breathing is nice and smooth and deep, long exhales, comfortable, right? So your heart rate isn't as high, your exertion level isn't as high. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the hardest you could work, let's say walking used to be your 1 or 2 level of exertion out of 10, right? If you increase your strength by learning how to do single leg squats, let's say you can do several sets of 10 repetitions, standing up and down on one leg. Let's say you're going down to parallel. That's a pretty high level of strength for a single leg squat compared to the average person. So if you're able to do that, then chances are doing a regular squat now is going to be a really low level exertion, like a 1 or a 2, whereas before it might have been like a 5 or a 6. And you can get to the point where single leg squats, you could do those all day long if you're to the point where you can add weight onto doing a single leg squat multiple times, repetitions, multiple sets of that, and still have some energy to spare. So my whole point is that as you increase your strength, everyday experiences are less stressful. This includes communications in relationships. So we get to the 4 pillars of nervous system regulation. I'm going to pull this up on the screen here. This is not as pretty of a PDF as I would like, but Janine, maybe you can help me with this. You're really good at creating great PDFs. This is a worksheet on the 4 pillars of nervous system regulation, and I wanted to briefly show it here. The 4 pillars are: 1, physical needs and supportive habits, right? So your physical habits, more or less. Your environment is pillar 2. Pillar 3 is your relationships, and pillar 4 is your mental habits, your mindset, right? So your physical habits include exercises to improve your strength, balance, flexibility, light exposure to help set your circadian rhythm with early sunrise exposure to your eyes with that natural sunlight, getting enough water, and so on and so forth. Even stress management, that all falls into the first pillar of nervous system regulation. Second pillar being your environment. What are your triggers that you can minimize in your environment? How can you maximize glimmers? So triggers are something that happens in your unconscious scanning of the environment. It picks it up and goes, oh, we're not in safety mode anymore. We're in potential threat or shutdown response, the green, yellow, red light level of stress and corresponding branches of the nervous system. If your body perceives a trigger, it's going to bring you up and you're going to be less efficient. Your stress levels go up. And so keeping those stress levels lower is really important in your environment, in your relationships, attachment bonds in particular, intimate bonds with intimate partners, with children, and with your parents. Those are all examples of attachment bonds, and they're more intense in terms of the effect on the nervous system. So making sure your third pillar is managed. So you're looking at, how do I create more collaboration and mutuality in all of my relationships that affect my nervous system most, and also affects their nervous system most. We can support one another. The most influential factor for nervous system regulation is your relationships, healthy relationships, whereas negative, dysfunctional relationships are the most dysregulated. So very important to consider. And of course, your fourth pillar, mindset, looking at, okay, so what are my mental habits? What are the ways that I view the world? Am I observing things in an objective way? When somebody cuts me off in traffic, am I looking at that objectively? Or am I thinking, hey, they did that on purpose, or they're so inconsiderate? Am I evaluating how that's happening? I might be right in my evaluation, but it's going to stress out my system a lot more if I focus on evaluating if it was right or wrong, what that person did. Instead, I can address it as it happens. I can leave a little bit more space, knowing that not everyone's going to drive safely on the road, and so on and so forth. Connecting to my emotions in a way where, and my body sensations for that matter, in a way where I accept them and I allow them to process. That's really important for regulation. Versus if I judge my emotions as I should or I shouldn't be experiencing them, well, that judgment's going to get in the way of processing those emotions, and they're going to be stored as tension in the body. I could go on with mental habits, but these are all ways of looking at how to more effectively regulate your nervous system based on what's going on mentally. And the foundation of regulating your nervous system all starts in the first pillar of your physical habits. What habits do you have throughout your day, the automatic behaviors that you do, you don't have to think about very much, that support regulation in your nervous system? I had mentioned glimmers before. It's an opposite of a trigger, something that brings you joy. So a song that you listen to and it brings back nostalgic feelings of maybe love that you felt associated with that song, or a joyful experience that you had. Maybe you went to a park where you tried a roller coaster for the first time and it was exciting, and there's a song that reminds you of that. When that song comes on, your nervous system is triggered. Excuse me, wrong word. It goes into, it's a glimmer. It elevates your mood and your experience. Anyway, so I wanted to briefly share that here. Reach out to me if you want a copy of this worksheet. There are questions under each of the pillars helping you to fine tune your different areas to support nervous system regulation. Anyway, so I'm going to let that one go now. But the focus for today, and you can reach out to me for a copy of this PDF. This is all of the parameters for improving your strength in terms of body weight exercises. How do you progress that, and what are the benefits of it? So I'm briefly going to read through this PDF, just giving you a sense of what we're focusing on today in terms of nervous system regulation. So being able to move your body well allows you to age with grace, reducing the possibility of injury and improving your quality of life because you have increased energy, because there's less unconscious tension from stress, and reduced, perhaps even eliminated pain if you're dealing with chronic pain. So unconscious tension from unresolved stress in the body, unresolved trauma, that leads to a feedback loop in the body. The tension creates a signal to the body to stay in a stress response. And the stress response triggers your body to hold more tension. And so improving your strength will actually interrupt that feedback loop. Why? Because when you're stronger, you have less need to tense your muscles to get through daily habits. So that's really important. So great examples of body weight exercises that help improve this process of regulation include pull-ups, right? Whether you have assistance or not, you are using your body weight. You're pulling your body with your lats, your biceps, your shoulders, your push-ups, pushing yourself using your chest, your triceps, your shoulders, your core to stabilize your body, your spine there, keeping your body stable while you're moving. Squats, as I talked about earlier in this video, planks, and many others. Planks are a great exercise that actually incorporate more than one body part. We're going to get to that. So taking small steps, being mindful of your breathing, gradual movement progressions in order to get to, let's say that planche that you want to get to. That's a goal of mine, which is why I think about that one often. Or maybe you're looking to do push-ups on the ground, or graduate from on your knees up to your toes doing push-ups and get comfortable with those. Increasing your strength in that part of your body will allow you to do that more effortlessly, and your body will be more regulated. It won't require as much of a strain and therefore won't stress your body as much. So in effect, by increasing your strength, you are improving your window of tolerance, your capacity to manage stress. And there are smaller steps along the way as you're evaluating, okay, so what level of strength exercises, in this case today, body weight strength exercises, what level am I working on challenging my body so that it will adapt? One of the principles of gaining strength is something called progressive overload. That is, you're taking on more and more force with a particular movement that allows your body just enough strain that it triggers your body to adapt, to create more strength, to build muscle mass. For very often, the ladies watching this type of topic, they get concerned about, am I bulking up too much? Am I going to build up too much muscle mass? I assure you that's not a concern unless you're eating too much. Okay. Build, and chances are most of what you're going to gain when you eat more is going to be fat, because excess calories lead to storage of fat. Carbohydrates are used for energy anyway. Same with protein, actually, and fat is used last. So my point being that you don't have to worry about getting bulk from strength training. When you gain strength, muscle takes up a fifth the space that fat does. So I wouldn't be concerned about that. Building strength, building muscle actually will have you be thinner, leaner, because muscle is heavier than fat, but it's smaller. And so you actually look better. You actually are more sculpted, more toned. You look better when you gain more muscle, when you get stronger. So I want to put that concern to rest. If you're a woman, and particularly female hormones are not conducive for building bulk in the same way that male hormones are supportive of that process. So even men who have, on average, 100 times the levels of testosterone than the average woman, even they have a very difficult time building muscle mass. So consider that when you build strength and you build muscle mass, this is actually helping you to look better if that's your concern. Aesthetics will actually improve a lot by building muscle mass. So I just want to put that to rest. So how do we get started on this process? Well, I wanted to show you a couple examples of movements that you can work toward and how to break those down into smaller movements. So I'm going to give one example from upper body, the upper body, the core, focusing on, the abdominal area and all of the surrounding muscles connected to the hips, stabilizing the spine. That's how we're going to define core here. And lower body, something for the lower body like a squat, or something for hamstrings like a deadlift, where you hinge forward at the hip joint, where your hamstrings lengthen and contract. So before we get into that, the overview of how to set up your strength program, just a reminder, I've said this before, if you are putting in effort that is less than 50, 60%, you're not building strength. You need to get up into the 70, 80% effort range. How do you know that you're doing that? Well, if you do an exercise, let's say a push-up, okay, and you're doing it on the floor on your toes. If you can barely do one, okay, you're in strength building zone. Good job. You can do one. If you can't do one, we need to back off and make an easier version of that so you can actually complete the motion. So maybe you go to putting your knees on the ground and doing push-ups. So you can do at least a few repetitions. Okay, so anything less than 6 repetitions is the strength building zone. And I don't mean, okay, you finish 6 reps, okay, I'm in the strength building zone. No, you are not able to complete any more than 6 repetitions. That is enough effort for the strength building zone. I've worked with people and they go, okay, I did 6 repetitions. They clearly haven't worked to the point where they are at muscle failure. And that's not actually the strength building zone. You need to find a movement that's that challenging where you can barely do either 6 or less. Probably a safe zone to work within is somewhere between 4 and 6 repetitions. So if you want your strength to improve, you need to be working at that level for at least some of your sets. Okay, so with that out of the way, warm-up should include something that allows you to breathe a little bit more easily, so you're not puffing and puffing or even holding your breath at those higher exertions. That's what happens. You're stressing your body on purpose to get it to adapt, right? Stress is not always bad. Stress helps you to adapt within limits, right? And also, if you want to look at your overall program design, let's look at how many sets you need to do of every movement. So if we're looking at upper body and you're building your chest, your triceps, and your shoulders, so that movement, in push-ups, for example, if you want that to improve, you're going to need to do at least 10 sets where you don't necessarily go completely to failure, but you're at that exertion level of 70% or above. Now, not all of those sets need to be in that range, but at least half of them. Okay. And if you want to maintain, it's about 5 total sets a week of each body part. Okay. So now you know that you need to have an easier level while you're warming up. And I don't just mean warming up the muscles. I also mean the neuromuscular connections, your cardiovascular system, as well as the specific muscles you're getting blood into by warming them up. At a lower level, and you want to work up to doing at least a few sets in that higher level so you can actually get your body to adapt and get stronger. Okay, we've gotten all of that out of the way, all the parameters, and all those details are covered here in this handout. If you want to quickly take a look, screenshot it maybe if you want to do the quick version, or reach out to me. I will send you the PDF. Okay, let's give a couple examples here. So if your goal is to do a push-up for upper body strength, we need to find the range at which you can do it comfortably, because we want your form to be at a level where it's refined enough so that you're not creating more imbalances. So the goal over time, after, if you're just starting, you don't want to go into the strength range. Okay, just to throw another factor in here, just so a variable here. If you're just getting started on this process, you don't actually want to work that hard. You want to be on the easier zone where you're not building strength in your muscles, but you're building your neuromuscular connections. You want to do that actually at a lower level. So preparing your body to do effective strength work, in this example, a push-up, we want to find a range where you can do at least 10 repetitions. So if the goal is to do it on the toes in that way, and you can't do it yet, we need to back off, either finding an elevated surface like the edge of the couch. Okay. Maybe that's too difficult. Maybe you need to find a tabletop that's elevated, or perhaps here, let's go down to a little bit lower here. And instead of going up on the couch, we can go on the ground. Okay, on the toes is more difficult, so a little easier on the knees. This is probably a little easier than doing a push-up up on the couch on your toes. So that's a progression to make it easier. You can make it even easier by bringing your knees forward. Okay, now I'm doing it with my hips flexed. So this is a much easier version. You want to keep backing off, making it easier and easier until you can do at least 10 comfortable repetitions. What do I mean by comfortable? So the goal is to work up to challenging yourself, but let's make sure your breathing is comfortable. Finding a version of this exercise where you can be at a relatively lower level of stress. Okay. That way, your body can learn. It can learn to adjust your positioning, to find the right alignment so you're working your muscles appropriately. Okay. So I explained in order to build strength, you need to really challenge yourself. But now I'm talking about making it easier. Why am I doing that? Because you need to find a range at which your body can learn. If you're too stressed, your body will go into automatic tension patterns. Okay. So we're backing off and then we'll increase the progression after we get really clear on the form is working for you for about 8 weeks. Okay. So it's about 8 weeks of doing this easier version. So let's say you're backing off to this point where you're pain-free, you're able to breathe pretty easily. Notice my positioning here. The goal with the position of my torso relative to my hands in a push-up is to get the chest to go between the hands, not the head. This is going to be bad form for your shoulders, neck, and your core. It's going to put strain on all sorts of areas of the body that are not so great. Not to mention, your elbows will often flare out, putting pressure on the wrists. And there are a lot of different reasons why that doesn't work so well. So what you want to do is make sure your elbows are at a 45-degree angle when they bend, right? As opposed to out here or all the way by the body, right about here, 45-degree angle. And you're going to aim your head in front of your hands so your chest goes in between your hands. Okay. And you're going to, hopefully this is about a level where you can breathe comfortably and you can complete at least 10 repetitions. Okay. Maybe there's a little bit of strain going on in the chest, the shoulders, the arms, maybe in your core. But what I want you to do is just make it easy enough so you can start to pay attention to your breathing. Deep inhale and lengthened exhale. At least as long, if not longer, your exhale longer than your inhale. Okay. This is a sign, a cue to the nervous system that you're able to stay in safety mode. This is good right now because we're training the muscles to do this movement well. And then we'll progress it only as fast as you can maintain that smooth breathing. This is preparation for 8 weeks from now, if you're just starting your program, to start challenging yourself by perhaps shifting from this one to extending here. Okay, that's a little bit more difficult. Let's say after about 6 weeks, you get to the point where this is easy to do about 15 repetitions and you're breathing in a way that is deep with longer exhales than your inhale. So it'll probably sound and look like this. You can start to pay attention to different aspects of this movement. So I'm going to break this down even further now. So if you're experiencing, when you're practicing any of these variations of the push-up, pain or discomfort or strain in some way in one of your joints, maybe it's your wrists, maybe it's your elbows, maybe it's your shoulders, maybe it's in your chest. We're working the chest when we're doing this. Maybe you feel something that's not right between or behind or below your shoulder blades. Okay, getting your arms and your shoulders in the right position is really important. Maybe your neck is straining because you're unconsciously putting your neck into this contracted position where the chin is up and the shoulders shrug up. That shortens the neck. Whereas when you tuck the chin to align your head with your spine and you keep your shoulders away from your ears, your neck remains long. This is a cue to your nervous system. I'm in safety if I can keep a long neck. If you do this, that's a stress response. Think of, I don't think saber-toothed tigers were alive at this time, but pretend they were. when humans were around and they're trying to attack. Well, the instant response is protect the neck, protect the internal organs in fetal position, right? So that type of pattern will happen also when you're stressing yourself with exercise. Now, remember, I said you're intending to stress your body, but to a degree where you can maintain control, where you're still within your capacity, your window of tolerance, right? So noticing your breathing and your alignment, that will help you. So in a push-up, there are several pieces that I want to break down here, and then some movement patterns that will help you improve that, okay? And this push-up will actually translate into the plank, which actually incorporates upper, core, and lower together. So you're working, in a sense, a full body exercise with one position or movement. We'll get to that. So in a push-up, so we're focusing on the upper body here, we want to make sure that your spine is stabilized. This is, I would say, the top priority, because keeping your core stable protects your spine. Your spine has nerves that send signals out to your muscles so they move appropriately, and it receives signals to the spine and then to the brain that are sensory signals, and that gives us feedback. Oh, I feel my alignment is out because I feel a pinching in my back. Oh, let me reconnect the core. This is something we're about to go over and practice how you can do. And your spine is only able to do that if it's working properly. So we need to keep proper spinal alignment. Okay, so the most important part, I would say, in terms of cueing safety is making sure the spine is stable. And we do this by connecting the core. I went over this on another meetup. Core connection is comprised of two components. One is tucking the ribs, which rounds out the mid-back. Think of hunching, but without the upper body following, just the ribs tucking in. So it's like a crunch. And then the other part of the core connection, the lower part, is tucking the tailbone so that your lower abdominals pull the front of the hips up and your tailbone drops. It's a tilting of the hips. So it's a shortening of your front, which lengthens your mid and lower back. It stabilizes your spine. So keeping that core connection is important in your push-up. If you do a push-up and you let your back sag, well, that's not stabilizing the spine. We need to connect the core. About to go over how to support that. Okay, another piece to your push-up is noticing the placement and the weight distribution on your hands. You want a fairly even distribution through all four corners, we'll call it. But typically what happens when you go into the flexed elbow position of your push-up is that your weight tends to shift to the outside of your hands. And that will happen when you're doing the right thing with your upper arms, which should be externally rotated. Remember I said about a 45-degree angle, elbows to the body, not together, not all flared all the way out, somewhere in between, okay? That's an external rotation of the upper arm. When you do that properly, which is good form, by the way, it will tend to shift the weight to the outside of the hand. And the way to get the weight here is not by flaring your elbows to get that to press, which it will do. You want to keep the upper arm externally rotated while spreading the fingers into that first knuckle. So if you go down in your push-ups, the first thing to notice about regulating your system while you're doing them is your breathing. But next is your alignment, starting with priorities: core connection, external rotation in your upper arm, internal rotation. So external upper arm, internal lower arm. Think of it as holding a steering wheel. Heavy elbows, but the first knuckle here turns in to go palms down. That's what you're doing in this motion. External rotation, upper arm, internal rotation here. And you only go as deep as you can maintain that pressure on that knuckle. Okay, so you can fine tune your level of exertion. That is, can you do at least 10 repetitions with good form in your core, in your upper arms, in your lower arms, in your shoulder blades, which we're about to get to, and your head and neck, okay? So your shoulder blades. When you're doing a push-up, It depends where you learn your push-up. Typically, in the bodybuilding scene, you'll see people do bench press and push-up where the shoulder blades remain fixed. They don't move. And there's some value to that for that particular exercise that they're doing. They're trying to create a focus on the chest muscle. Great. Now, if you want to get a little bit more functional, that is moving in a way that uses the body as a holistic unit, not segmenting into pieces. That's what bodybuilding does, by the way. It focuses on one muscle at a time to build it, to focus on it. I want to show you how to make it more functional with your shoulder blade movement so that when you are going into your push-up, you're maintaining stability of your shoulder blades so they're not moving around, but doing it in a way where you remain focused on keeping your chest engaged. So when you go down, try to keep your shoulder blades separate, okay? And when you reach the top, exaggerate it by extending those shoulders forward. So your shoulder blades protract, they separate, okay? By the way, in everyday posture, not a great posture, but in push-ups, helpful. Now, the opposite is true. If you were to get underneath a bar and pull yourself up, you want to keep your shoulder blades back. That keeps your shoulder blades stable there. So you're pushing your shoulder blades in the same direction your arms are going. Same thing goes for a handstand. You want to shrug those shoulders up to get the shoulder blades stable and contracted in a way that supports the direction you're pushing. Same with pull-ups. You want to pull down and get the shoulders down away from the ears. Okay, so we have priorities for regulating your system in a push-up. Smooth breathing, which includes going deep as you can comfortably breathe in, lengthening your exhale more than your inhale, right? So your breathing is first priority. Second, core connection. Third priority is rotation of your upper arm externally, internally with your lower arm. Remember, as you go down, you want to keep that first knuckle on the ground. Okay, now let's get into shoulder blades. As you press, exaggerate your protraction of the shoulder blades, okay? And also keeping your shoulder blades down away from your ears to keep that neck free while your head is back but tucked, not here. That's shortening the neck, that's lengthening the neck, okay? By the way, all of these alignment principles, I have a video called 10 Minutes of Awareness, and it goes over in a format where you can follow along with the video and practice all the different alignment adjustments so that this becomes more intuitive. I know this is a lot of information, but putting it all together, you'll find is a completely different experience. And so in order to get the body to be able to learn this appropriate alignment, so your body builds strength in a way that cues safety, that is a supported spine. The spine is now free to exchange nerve signals to the brain and from the brain, sensory and motor. If I'd use my hands appropriately, going toward the brain, sensory, and going away from the brain, motor, right? Movement oriented, right? So breathing, core connection, the rotation of your upper arm and lower arm. I call that the arm spiral, and it's also called that in a certain yoga philosophy that I take it from. Then you make sure that your shoulder blades are away from your ears and your head is aligned, okay? And just for good measure, squeeze your glutes so that your legs are not a movement variable there. If they're solid and tense, then they're going to keep you in a solid position. So I'm breathing smoothly. Let me show you this full on the toes push-up. I'm breathing smoothly. I'm connecting my core. I'm externally rotating my upper, internally rotating my lower. I'm keeping my shoulders away from the ears, head back in alignment, and I'm breathing and moving. Shoulder blades separate. Separate. Breathing. So all of those pieces together allow for a more aligned version of your push-up that allows you to be more regulated. Your breathing and your alignment, very important for cueing your body that it's safe. And when you're in that safety zone, that lowest level of stress possible, You're going to be able to learn more efficiently. Body learning, not just up here, understanding it, but your body will remember what you're doing. And that's very important if you want to build skills on top of that. Okay, so here are a couple movements that will help you build each of those parts of the push-up. And then we're gonna put it into a plank to finish up the video here. All right, so to get that smooth breathing, I want you to notice the different areas of your body where you can breathe. So when you inhale, trying to expand your chest, expand your belly, and also widen your lower ribs. And you can check it with your hands here just for the first two parts, chest, belly. And you can practice pushing sideways in on your ribs, and as you inhale, get some more width. This gets a much deeper inhale, more oxygen to those tissues. It helps cue safety through waking up the system. Inhales are stimulating, exhales are calming. So that deep inhale is very important to wake up awareness. You're going to be more aware of your body as you do that more. And if you were to just take lots of deep breaths and not do anything, you would hyperventilate, right? But we're putting that oxygen to use in a push-up. So extra deep breaths are not going to give you a head rush. They're not going to hyperventilate you because you're using that energy, that oxygen that you're filling your lungs with and going into your bloodstream. That blood is going into the muscles that you're using that energy. And so those deep breaths are going to be stimulating, but you're using the energy. So it's not going to become erratic or anxiety provoking if you are actually putting the effort in, and that's important. All right, so that's how to improve your inhales. Exhale, I would say just resist somewhere, like so you can resist in your throat, through your nose as you exhale. That's what I have heard called Darth Vader breathing. Why resist? Because it makes the exhale longer. And that's going to cue calm in your nervous system. That's important too. As much as you can comfortably go, lengthen your exhale or resist through your lips. Like you're blowing through a small straw. That will make your exhale take longer and it will cue your nervous system. Oh, I can calm my system, calm my system. Wake it up, double inhale, long exhale. For those of you who know, that's called the physiological sigh, where you go to your full capacity and then double inhale. A little bit more, maybe expand your ribs if they weren't already, and then lengthen your exhale. Physiological sigh breathing pattern will be very helpful for lowering your stress response. Okay, so breathing, that's an exercise that will help you with that component, the physiological sigh. Now for your core connection, we need to practice going both directions, both with your ribs and with your hips. Okay, so this movement, apart and together, just the upper, just the lower. We want to work on connecting here and seeing how far you can go. So a great way to practice that is just right here on your knees or standing on your feet. Inhale, exhale, separate, connect. You can do this with a little more resistance, so the weight's on your hands and your knees evenly. It's called cat-cow in yoga. Taking your time, lengthening the inhale and the exhale to try and deepen the position. So you're practicing, okay, what would it be like if I let myself come out of position? What's it like to come back into the correct position? Okay, so those are just a couple ways. You can also practice this on the ground so you can feel your mid and lower back coming off the ground, inhale, flattening to the ground, exhale. Okay, great. So we have your breath exercises to help smooth your breathing, cue safety to your nervous system through your breathing. We have your core connection, practicing that in easy ways before you transfer it into your push-up. And then we have moving your shoulder blades forward and back. So remember, you want to try and protract your shoulder blades more because that's where the weight is. That's the direction your arms are pushing in a push-up, right? So you can just practice that by bringing your shoulder blades back and forward. Inhale, exhale. Notice there's a little rotation in my arms. They're actually rotating. You don't have to, but you might find it's a little easier to move your shoulder blades forward and back that way. You can also go up and down, practicing shortening your neck, lengthening, shortening, lengthening. You can incorporate the arms if you want, like you're pulling a rope. You can also incorporate your spine. I'm arching and rounding my spine. Core is opening and closing as I practice my shoulder blades. Apart and together. Okay, the arm spiral. That one I find is most helpful to do when you're holding something. So let's say a cup of coffee. Where is your elbow? Let it hang as if there's a string with a weight attached. Okay, so whenever you're picking something up, see if you can allow your elbow to be heavy. That is an external rotation of the upper arm. It's also an AB, abduction, going toward the midline as opposed to adduct. You're externally rotating that upper arm and at the same time allowing your palm to face down. So I would not do that with a cup of coffee or you're going to spill it. But elbow down and turn your hand down, maybe holding onto a steering wheel. This is stress-induced type of cue for your shoulders. This is stress relieving. This is more contracting away from the alignment we're looking for, and this is more balanced because it's the opposite of that upper. So great way to practice the arm spiral is on the steering wheel. Just push into that first knuckle a little bit when you're at a stoplight, not while you're actually moving, because we want to keep safe on the road, right? Okay, so your breath, all those three areas, your core, your shoulder blades moving up, forward and back, protracting, retracting, elevating, depressing the shoulder blades. And now we can incorporate that into the push-up. Okay, easiest version that you can do, so you can breathe smoothly, connecting your core. As you bend your elbows, make sure the elbows are 45 degrees with the first knuckle down. Can you get your body forward as opposed to here, which is not so good for the shoulders? Okay, keeping the shoulders away from the ears. And at the top, can you make sure your shoulder blades are protracting? Just showing you how most people do push-ups and then protract. That's more what they do in gymnastics and calisthenics to get more of a holistic functioning of your body there. Okay, so before I end this video, I want to make sure to incorporate the plank. Now the plank, I call the version on your elbows, I call it a face down bridge. And I call the version where you're up on your hands a plank. Why? Just because I had to pick one so I can differentiate one from the other. So bridge on the elbows, plank up here. That's, by the way, a variation where you can, what I call push-up bridges. Up and down. You're checking your breathing, first priority. Second priority, making sure your core is connected. Are you tucking your ribs to round out the mid-back? Are you tucking your tailbone through so that your lower abs are pulling up, shortening your front, lengthening your spine? So holding this plank, core is connected, breath is smooth, point those elbows back, make sure that first knuckle of your finger is pressing, that's the arm spiral. Can you protract your shoulder blades as opposed to retract? Hold it there. Core is tight, head is up with the shoulders away from the ears. And now squeeze your glutes and your quads, helping your legs to get involved. Just holding and breathing smoothly. You'll find that if you were doing plank holds before and you try it incorporating all of those things, they are quite a bit more difficult. And you're going to build a better base of strength. And you're going to cue safety to your nervous system by doing it in those ways. Okay, so that's the content that I wanted to share for today. Technically, this is considered week 8 of the meetup recordings, body weight exercises, finding strength within yourself. And the goal of practicing body weight exercises is to cue safety in the nervous system. That is with the work I do with holistic fitness training. And progressing in a way where your body can adapt, starting with warm-ups and progressions that are easier for about the first 8 weeks, because we want to make sure that your alignment is such that it reinforces safety rather than stress response. Through adjusting all those little cues, all those little alignment adjustments that are basically showing the body, I need to be in threat mode. I need to be ready for danger. I need to be ready to fight or flee or shut down, worst case scenario. We don't want that. We want smooth breathing. We want alignment. Reach out to me if you want a link to the 10 minutes of awareness guided movement meditation to practice your alignment principles that I covered in some of this video today. And best of luck to you. If you want any support one-on-one, or if you want to join this meetup, send me a message. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave a message in the comments and I'll show you where you can reach out to me. My email is holisticfitnesslifestyle@gmail.com. And you're welcome to check out my website. I will leave a link to that below, where you can find links to sign up to work with me one-on-one if you want to work on these types of progressions, or any of your daily habits that support a more regulated nervous system, so you can be the best version of yourself. Or if you want to dip your toes in the water, you can join the meetup group, where we do Zoom video recordings like this. And when there are people live on the call, I'll address specific questions that you may have. And if you join the meetup, you get periodic free 30-minute consults to build your program. So you can work with me one-on-one to personalize what's your level and what's the next step for you to take. Okay, that all comes with $100 a month. That's half price from what it used to be at $200 a month. And that allows you access to the recordings, to all the PDF support for all the different topics 4 times a week. Every 4th week, we do TRE as a group. And TRE stands for tension and trauma releasing exercises. It's a practice that allows you to get more deeply in touch with your body, reduce stress, increase awareness. And there's this deep sense of calm and relaxation that happens when you practice TRE. So you get to learn a bit of that with me in a group setting, or you can work with me doing that one-on-one, or even doing holistic fitness training, which is more of the type of content that you saw on this video here today. So my name is Mike Thomas. Thank you so much for joining. This is the Regulated Habits Meetup group, and I'll see you next week. Cheers.